The Papuan languages are a subset of languages of Papua New Guinea of the western Pacific island of New Guinea, and neighbouring islands, that are neither Austronesian nor Australian. The term does not presuppose a genetic relationship. The concept of Papuan peoples as distinct from Melanesians was first suggested and named by Sidney Herbert Ray in 1892. Languages. New Guinea is one of the most linguistically diverse regions in the world. Besides the Austronesian languages, there are some 800 languages divided into perhaps 60 small language families, with unclear relationships to each other or to any other languages, plus a large number of language isolates. The majority of the Papuan languages are spoken on the island of New Guinea, with a number spoken in the Bismarck Archipelago, Bougainville Island, and the Solomon Islands to the east, and in Halmahera, Timor, and the Alo Archipelago to the west. The westernmost language, Tambora in Sumbawa, is extinct. One Papuan language, Meriam, is spoken within the national borders of Australia in the eastern Torres Strait. The only Papuan languages with official recognition of those of East Timor. Several languages of Flores, Sumba, and other islands of eastern Indonesia are classified as Austronesian but have large numbers of non-Austronesian words in the basic vocabulary, and non-Austronesian grammatical features. It has been suggested that these may have originally been non-Austronesian languages that have borrowed nearly all of the vocabulary from neighbouring Austronesian languages, but no connection with the Papuan languages of Timor has been found. In general, the Central Eastern Malayo-Polynesian languages are marked by a significant historical Papuan influence lexically, grammatically, and phonologically, and this is responsible for much of the diversity of the Austronesian language family. Most Papuan languages are spoken by hundreds to thousands of people. The most populous are found in the New Guinea highlands, where a few exceed 100,000. These include Western Dani and Ekri in the Western Highlands, and Nga, Huli, and Melpa in the Eastern Highlands. To the west of New Guinea, the largest languages are Makassai in East Timor and Galela in Halmahera. To the east, Tere and Nashoi are spoken on Bougainville. Although there has been relatively little study of these languages compared with the Austronesian family, there have been 3 preliminary attempts at large-scale genealogical classification by Joseph Greenberg, Stephen W. Wurm, and Malcolm Ross. The largest family posited for the Papuan region is the Trans-New Guinea phylum, consisting of the majority of Papuan languages and running mainly along the highlands of New Guinea. The various high-level families may represent distinct migrations into New Guinea, presumably from the west, since perhaps only a quarter of Papuan languages have been studied in detail. Linguists' understanding of the relationships between them will continue to be revised. Statistical analyses designed to pick up signals too faint to be detected by the comparative method, though of disputed validity, suggest 5 major Papuan stocks. Long-range comparison has also suggested connections between selected languages, but again the methodology is not orthodox in historical linguistics. The Great Andamanese languages may be related to some Western Papuan languages, but are not themselves covered by the term Papuan. Greenberg's classification. Joseph Greenberg proposed an Indo-Pacific phylum containing the Andamanese languages, all Papuan languages, and the Tasmanian languages, but not the Australian Aboriginal languages. Very few linguists accept his grouping. It is distinct from the Trans-New Guinea phylum of the classifications below. Wurm's classification. The most widely used classification of Papuan languages is that of Wurm, listed below with the approximate number of languages in each family in parentheses. This was the scheme used by Ethnologue prior to Ross's classification. It is based on very preliminary work, much of it typological, and Wurm himself has stated that he doesn't expect it to hold up well to scrutiny. Other linguists, including William A. Foley, have suggested that many of Wurm's phyla are based on areal features and structural similarities, and accept only the lowest levels of his classification, most of which he inherited from prior taxonomies. Foley divides Papuan languages into over 60 small language families, plus a number of isolates. However, more recently Foley has accepted the broad outline if not the details of Wurm's classification, as he and Ross have substantiated a large portion of Wurm's Trans-New Guinea phylum. According to Ross, the main problem with Wurm's classification is that he did not take contact-induced change into account. For example, several of the main branches of his Trans-New Guinea phylum have no vocabulary in common with other Trans-New Guinea languages, and were classified as Trans-New Guinea because they are similar grammatically. However, there are also many Austronesian languages that are grammatically similar to Trans-New Guinea languages due to the influence of contact and bilingualism. Similarly, several groups that have substantial basic vocabulary in common with Trans-New Guinea languages are excluded from the phylum because they do not resemble it grammatically. Wurm believed the Papuan languages arrived in several waves of migration, with some of the earlier languages being related to the Australian languages, a later migration bringing the West Papuan, Torricelli and the East Papuan languages, and a third wave bringing the most recent pre-Austronesian migration, the Trans-New Guinea family. Papuan families proposed by Wurm: Amto-Musan languages, Burmese language, Busa language, East Birds Head languages, East Papuan languages, Jilvinkbe languages, Yuri language, Porom language, Kwamtari Babai languages, Left May languages, Sepik Ramu languages, Sko languages, Torricelli languages, Trans-New Guinea languages, West Papuan languages, Yale language. Two of Wurm's isolates have since been linked as the Lower Mamberemo languages, and since Wurm's time another isolate and two languages belonging to a new family have been discovered: a Benim language, Bayano or Bono languages. Ross's classification. Malcolm Ross re-evaluated Wurm's proposal on purely lexical grounds. That is, he looked at shared vocabulary, and especially shared idiosyncrasies analogous to English IME versus Germanic and Mitch. The poor state of documentation of Papuan languages restricts this approach largely to pronouns. Nonetheless, Ross believes that he has been able to validate much of Wurm's classification, albeit with revisions to correct for Wurm's partially typological approach. Ethnologue largely follows Ross. It has been suggested that the families that appear when comparing pronouns may be due to pronoun borrowing rather than to genealogical relatedness. However, Ross argues that Papuan languages have closed-class pronoun systems which are resistant to borrowing, and in any case that the massive number of languages with similar pronouns in a family like Trans-New Guinea preclude borrowing as an explanation. Also, he shows that the two cases of alleged pronoun borrowing in New Guinea are simple coincidence, explainable as regular developments from the proto-languages of the families in question. As earlier forms of the languages are reconstructed, the pronouns become less similar, not more. Ross has proposed 23 Papuan language families and 9 to 13 isolates. However, because of his more stringent criteria, criteria, he was not able to find enough data to classify all Papuan languages, especially many isolates that have no close relatives to aid in their classification. Ross also found that the lower Mamberamo languages are Austronesian languages that have been heavily transformed by contact with Papuan languages, much as the Takia language has. A Reef Islands, Santa Cruz languages of Wurm's East Papuan phylum were a potential 24th family, but subsequent work has shown them to be highly divergent Austronesian languages as well. Note that while this classification may be more reliable than past attempts, it is based on a single parameter, pronouns, and therefore must remain tentative. Although pronouns are conservative elements in a language, they are both short and utilize a reduced set of the language's phonemic inventory. Both phenomena greatly increase the possibility of chance resemblances, especially when they are not confirmed by lexical similarities. Papuan families proposed by Ross. Trans-New Guinea? Extended West Papuan, West Papuan languages, East Bird's Head, Santani languages, Yawa, Mairazi languages, East Cendrawasi languages, Legs Plain languages, Torquaba languages, Nimboran languages, Skou languages, Border languages, Left May, Kwamtari languages, Left May Fas, Kwamtari, Senagi languages, Torricelli languages, Sepik languages, Ramu, Lower Sepik languages, Uat languages, Piawi languages, South Central Papuan languages, Eastern Transfly languages, Yell, West New Britain languages, Yaqut Lidn Ynm Arta, Baining languages, North Bougainville languages, South Bougainville languages, Central Solomons languages, language isolates proposed by Ross, sorted by location, North Aryan, Abinim language, Isarawa language, Sandan Province, Kaka language, since shown to be a Pawazi language, Busa language, Yale language, Sepik River, Tayap language, located on what had been an offshore island 4000 BCE, Bismarck Archipelago, Sulka language, on New Britain, Cole language, on New Britain, Kuoti language, on New Ireland. Other former isolates classified by Ross: Burmiso language, in the East Bird's Head, Santani languages, Porome language, in the Kiwi family of Trans-New Guinea, Morwap language, in the Border languages, languages reassigned to the Austronesian family, Lower Mamberamo, Kazukuru language, Reef Islands, Santa Cruz, unclassified due to lack of data, Amto Musan languages, Kanati, Komayan Darat, Maramba, Masep, Molif, Momuna family, Momuna, Samarakina, Saponi, Taus, Tofamna, USKU, unaccounted for, Bayano or Bono, Byu, Kosair, Karpori, Purari. There is a cluster of languages in West Papua between the upper Taratatu River and the PNG border, including Molif, USKU, and Tofamna listed above, but also Namla, Merkham, Lepki, and Kembra, which do not appear to be related to each other or to other languages in the area. Namla, recently discovered, may prove to be related to Tofamna once more data comes in. Merkham and Lepki show some similarities to each other, though these may not be genetic. Tambora, Doso, Kimki,